Hi, I am so excited and honored to be coming to you today for this magical summit to chat about art channeling. And I'll be sharing with you a bit about my process, what it means to me to be channeling through art, and how you can start to cultivate your own practice and put some of these little fun, playful tools in a toolbox in place so that you can learn how to do it for yourself. And also, I'll be sharing a little bit of a sneak peek behind the scenes of me creating some art. So you can just get an example for what that might look like. But the thing I really want to stress to everyone is that this is truly such a personal process with you and the divine, where you're bringing through energies in only the way that you can. And we all have the things that make us feel more open and more suggestible to the energies. And I want you to always, first and foremost, check in with your body and your intuition and know that whatever feels right for you is the right way for you. So with that being said, I will share a little bit about me. My name is Nicole. I have been an artist for as long as I can remember. And right now I am loving my experimentation with channeling art. It has been the most heart-opening experience, and it's kind of the culmination of all the spiritual inner work that I've been doing on myself the last several years plus, probably much more than that. And it has been such a cool evolution to just see how everything that we learn over the years just comes together in this way, in the right timing. I also love to write, and currently channeling messages and healing and light codes through the Akashic records. So that's another thing that has been on my learning list, and I've been super deep diving into learning all about the Akashic records and the magic that can be brought through in so many ways. So I almost forgot to mention, I'm also very much into astrology and human design and gene keys. So love just deep diving into those topics whenever I feel called. And for any of you interested in human design, I am an emotional projector. So yeah, let's dive right into what is art channeling. I decided to ask the records after I had written my own description and just seeing what, if they had anything they wanted to add. And the thing that came through right away was they said that the act of channeling art is the soul and body becoming one to birth through a powerful experience. And that gave me chills because, we think about becoming like the most open channel that we can and realizing it's about oneness, right? It's about integrating all the different parts of us so that we truly know who we are and what we're here to bring through. So I just loved that description that the record keepers gave for all of us. So from my perspective, to channel art is to have the intention of bringing through these higher dimensional energies and frequencies through our physical bodies as a channel and into the physical, into a visual or tangible type of form. So as I kind of mentioned in the beginning, this will be unique for each of us. And yes, we are all artists, whether we think we can draw or paint or not, it doesn't matter. We're all an expression of the divine, and we all have something to say and something to contribute. So what I feel makes this process so special is that no two people will ever have the same experience, even if they're connecting to the same energies, translating source energy, around like self-love or animal energies, which is something that I really love to do. It will never come through in the same way. So just like we can never have too many healers performing their magic in their expertise. We can never have too many artists who are wanting to birth through new expressions and bring a voice to the expression of source, which I am just always so moved by. It's a modality that we can connect to the divine, just like meditation. So this analogy came through for me as I was thinking about what to share with you all. And I really loved it because meditation is such a universal thing that many of us engage in regularly. And it's a way of really intentionally connecting to that oneness within. And to me, art channeling is kind of taking it to the next level where we've connected to the oneness, we feel it, we are now embodying it, and the energy has somewhere to go. It's like we receive, and then it flows through our body and out into the physical. And it requires us to move our bodies. That's why movement is so important too. It's like this just like energy in motion. And I'll talk to you a little bit about emotions too, because that has been such a big one for me in terms of processing and learning more about through my art practice. And so we'll be harnessing that connection to source, bringing it in through action and through how we are feeling and experiencing those energies in that moment. So even if we go back in time and say, I want to connect again, it's not going to be the same. We're in a different emotional state. We're feeling different things. The experience can never be replicated. And to me, that's just pure magic. So we can refine these energies coming through with a sacred intention, which I'll also talk about a little bit more, but through these different transmissions or healing energies or activations, we can say, I want to receive messages and healing from my guides or my higher self or certain beings that are here for our highest good, ancestors, angels, animals, and really having the intention of connecting with that specific energy. Or it can just be general, like there's no rule. I think it's what feels good to you always. And there's just so many possibilities. And that's the coolest thing about this is there's infinite ways for information messages to come through and from infinite sources. So as I mentioned before, I personally channel primarily through the Akashic records, which is something I've been studying in depth the last several months. And I love this space because the energies are so pure and so loving, and it feels like such a safe, sacred container of just pure love. And I also feel like I'm extra tapped in when I connect to the records. It kind of like creates that energetic like boundary between everyday life and the divine channeling messages that want to come through. And something that helps me like get out of my head and into my body. And that's like, now I flip the switch, it's channeling time, like time to go do it. And also in the Akashic records, as I briefly mentioned, you can also have the intention of bringing through healing energies for a specific person, like let's say you're channeling a custom piece for someone, or healing energies in general from animals or guides, angels, etc. And the activation codes for helping people to like transform something really powerful within them when they look at the piece of art. So for me, it's kind of twofold, right? So you have the experience of channeling the piece, which is the act of creation. And that in and of itself, to me, is highly, highly transformative. And I always learn something completely new about myself through the experience, which is why I called this workshop what I did. It's like you're meeting yourself in endlessly new ways because we're all facets of divine source, God, that every time we interact with that and bring it through our bodies, we're learning something new, we're experiencing life in a new way. And that is just like the coolest thing to me, is that we can just constantly be diving deeper and deeper into this expansion of self and knowledge through our vessel of what it means to be alive in this human experience. So the second part of this, which I feel is equally as powerful, but just in a different way, is the final product. So once you've finished a piece, you receive that transmission through the art. It's a sacred snapshot of what came through that will forever be in this physical form. So every time you look at it, you receive the codes, you receive the wisdom. And in that sense, every time you look at it too, it'll be a different experience because you're coming at it from a different place. And, you know, whatever it is that you're needing, you'll receive exactly that, which I find just hugely powerful. So as I was stepping into this work, it can sometimes be a little bit of a stretch to come from traditional art, which is my background, and perfectionistic tendencies and wanting to get it exactly perfect, to then being like, oh wow, I can channel through higher dimensional energies. Like what? It takes a little bit of a gap to fill as you're learning that this is a thing that's possible. And I was, you know, stepping into this, having that kind of disconnect, but then I had the realization that even though we've never consciously done something before in this lifetime, it does not mean that on a deep soul level, we don't know how to do it. And that blew my mind when I realized that we already have everything that we need. It's stored in our body, in our cells, from past lifetimes, from ancestors, from you name it. It's just sitting there waiting to be activated. And a lot of times, all it takes is to give ourselves that chance to activate it. And for so long, I felt frozen to try because it didn't make any sense to me. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I can do this. And when I gave myself the opportunity, it's like the heavens opened up and it's like, okay, you're ready now that you took that step. And it requires us to make that leap into the unknown, into the trust, and know that we'll be held and supported along the way because we're being guided to that experience. So that was such a powerful realization for me. And like having the experience of fully letting go and letting God take over, you can't know that until you do it. So my suggestion and my prayer for all of you is that if you feel the call to do something new that totally freaks you out, but you know you're being guided to it, it won't leave you alone, it keeps knocking at your door, telling you like, hey, there's something here for you that you need to explore, give yourself the opportunity to do it. And it's like the best investment that you will ever make, I guarantee. So I want to talk about emotions. Emotions, oh my goodness. So as I said, energy in motion. And a lot of us grew up not knowing how to feel our emotions. It's such a big topic. We hold a lot of things stuck in our bodies and don't necessarily have a safe way of expressing it. And I'm realizing through this artistic process that channeling art is such a powerful way of moving those emotions through. And not only is it helping us process, you know, the energies that are circulating in our bodies, but those emotions are incredibly potent and powerful as they are. It opens us up to that receivership with the divine. And when we learn how to no longer judge those feelings as being any particular way, and especially not as being bad, as we all know and love so well, we have the opportunity again to know ourselves deeper. And the emotional codes, like, there's something so powerful about feeling like every facet of an emotion and all that it brings up, and to just allow it to be as it is. And then when you channel that through an art piece, you can feel that emotional experience, which is why, movies and art and so many other creative things can be so impactful and transformative and help other people to have their own emotional experience through viewing whatever the product is. So I hope that was another helpful way to look at emotions and just all the potential that of magic to come through with this art channeling process. So one other piece before we get into some suggestions for like practices and channeling is, I totally want to emphasize the fact that it is not a serious process. It can be serious if that's what we're wanting to experience in that moment, but play and fun and allowing ourselves to be little kids again as we're exploring this is what really helps us open up. And something I was making note of as I was putting this together was, sacred does not equal serious. Like, we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves just because we're planning to create this experience for ourselves, that it's like, oh, I have to do it right, I have to follow all the steps, I have to, like, now I'm in this mode. And a lot of us can like turn to serious, and that's where we need to like poke ourselves and say, nope, like, let's let go, let's be funny, let's just catch this state and turn it into play. So here is a little bit about my process to feeling open and a clear channel for source to come through. And again, there's no chronological steps here, just a variety of practices to play with and pick up as you feel called, and feel into what, if I didn't mention something that resonates with you, like, explore that. This is just the list that I've come up with over this period of time that I have experimented. So again, allow yourself to be guided and led by the energies coming through. That's like the first and foremost point that is so, so important. Whatever the energies are telling you to do is how you should be creating. So, and they'll probably also express like, I want you to move in this kind of way, like a more fluid way or a really intense way, or like any way that you'll be receiving. So number one for me is, be in your body to release your mind. So allowing the wisdom of our vehicle to lead the way, and it knows if we allow it to take the reins. So some kinds of movement that I can suggest are dance, putting on some music that just makes you want to get up and move and feel that passion and that energy. Stretching, a yoga flow if you're into that, going for a nature walk. I also love rebounding. So I have a little mini trampoline where I like really get the lymph moving, and it feels like such a rush of like energy clearing as I'm doing it. You can also do some shamanic shaking to really like get some stagnant energy out. And all of these things, no matter what kind of movement feels best for you, it just opens up those pathways and allows us to feel more deeply and the more subtle realms, because channeling is not, it doesn't like hit you smack in the face. It's really like the subtlety of the energy. And many of us, myself included, who tend towards that masculine side of perfectionism, need to learn how to lean into the complete opposite, the feminine, the fluid, the emotional, the passionate. Um, to embody that fluid feminine is to think about what kinds of experiences that allow you to feel the most free and in your body. So again, the dancing is why I mentioned that, because the sacred feminine is just, whoo, you really feel that coming through in that sacred dance. And the other things you can think about are the clothes you're wearing. Like, does a flowy dress help you tap in? Does any specific kind of jewelry, um, the lighting, the ambiance of the space, and I'll be talking a little bit more about the space too, but having candles, like things that really drop you into that sensuality. So the next part is meditation and nervous system work. So I don't do an extensive meditation beforehand because I find that it takes me too long to kind of get into the creative process, and that's kind of where the juice is for me. But meditation can be extremely helpful if you want to experiment with dropping in for even just a few minutes and experiencing that oneness through your heart can be hugely helpful to tap you into that space. And if you want to do a longer meditation beforehand too, that's perfect. And I mentioned nervous system breath work, or breath work in general, because that is such an important way to get into your body and out of your head. So for me, learning about the nervous system was such a game changer. I realized I was stuck in that freeze mode for so much of my life. Um, and learning how to breathe to help regulate the system is so critical with feeling safe in your body and safe enough to allow higher energies to come through. So I'll share with you a simple breathwork practice that I do. Basically, you want to make sure that when you're inhaling, you do it. I do for like 4 or 5 counts or longer if I feel. And then when you breathe out, double that. So you want to make sure your out breath is longer, much longer than your in breath, but not to the point of like overdoing it. Just, it always needs to feel comfortable and safe in your body. So feel what feels good for you. And I think for me, doing a few minutes of this is even enough. And sometimes I'll do this in the morning in a different capacity. So spreading it out throughout the day is also quite helpful. So yeah, playing around with that and seeing how long it takes you to feel into that relaxed, leveled, fully in your body state. So if it interests you, you could always experiment with a longer, more intense breathwork session ahead of time. I know there are lots of apps for that. I use the one called Open, and you can have like a pretty profound release and revelations coming through that can really help you open up further if that's something that calls to you. So the next thing to consider is creating a sacred container and ceremony in a way around your art channeling practice. And sacred, again, not serious, but it can be very, very simple. And that's what I do. I like to light candles and do some smudging. I specifically love cinnamon sticks for the aroma and the grounding that it helps me with. And the smoke clearing always just helps to neutralize the energies and clear the space. And you can also, if you're into doing a more in-depth ceremony, calling in the directions and using all the elements, earth, air, wind, fire, ether. And smudging does cover most of that. And then if you use like a little shell to put your cinnamon or Palo Santo in, can be just like a beautiful way to honor that and to get into that ceremony space. I also really love creating by my altar. And that to me is where the energy is most potent. And all my ceremonial materials, my crystals, plants are already there. And it just feels like a coming home to me. Crystal grids are another thing that can be helpful for having around to amplify the energy that's in the space. I have one on my altar space for the illumination container that I'm in right now with G. And my space is also filled with plants. I love having plants around me. Their energy is so nourishing, so grounding, and mostly just make me so happy. So even if you can't find like an underlying reason why something is calling to you, if it makes you feel good, that is the most important indicator. It can also be helpful to think about how it feels for you to create on a desk or standing or on the floor. I personally love the floor because it makes me feel like a kid and just so relaxed and like in that creative space. But play around with what works for you. You could try like going outside. Is by a window really good so you can look outside and be inspired by nature? Outside, yeah, could be really fun, but you have to bring all your stuff with you. But yes, get creative with that too, as most of us here are probably quite sensitive to our energetic space, our environment, and you'll likely find that finding a supportive one that helps in just surrendering and feeling safe in our body will make such a big difference. So also, if you're into scents and smells, I love experimenting with essential oils, like just intuitively picking one and like rubbing it in my hands and smelling it and really like soaking in that sensory experience is also something that helps me get into that space. So the next piece is prayer and intention. So what I like to do is to sometimes write out a prayer beforehand where just the intention of the process is coming through and I can speak that out loud to God, to source, and really feel like I'm setting the energetic stage for the process to come. And setting intentions around connecting to your higher self or even experimenting with tapping into a sacred space like the Akashic records to bring through the healing and wisdom and messages. So this is when I will start to open the records. But first, I usually do a really quick grounding meditation where I imagine roots growing from my feet and connecting to the core of the earth, bringing that energy back up through my body, up into the center of the universe, back down again a few times. I'll do it like 2 or 3 times and then land in my heart space. And then I will do some quick cord cutting. So as simple as like clearing the space around your head and around your body with your hands can help with like any sticky energies that you've carried with you throughout the day and just like release that. And I always feel much lighter after I do that, which is so cool. And then I'll open the records. And the next piece is visualization. So once I open the records, I allow just whatever's wanting to come through. Like they'll speak to me and say, we want you to bring through the messages and expression of self-love. And a lot of times, like I'll go into it being like, oh, it'd be cool to tap into, like tiger energy or something majestic like that. And then they'll say, nope, it's going to be self-love today. And I will be like, okay, like I'm just going to go with it. And it's always so fun to just have an open mind to what is asking to come through, which is just like the soul of this process. So once I receive like, okay, self-love's coming through, I'll sit and shut my eyes and visualize the images and the feelings and the messages from the records that are telling me here is like the juice of this transmission. And I'll have a notebook nearby so I can write down the messages that are coming through. And I receive my, I guess, intuitive knowings most strongly through visuals. So I'll see a lot of visuals and then my knowing will kick in and know what that means. So it's really fun to just like sit in that space of like the energy that's coming in, and it helps me to really embody that as well. So like that energy of self-love has a frequency and it's being transmitted through the messages, through the visuals, however you receive messages most clearly. And it helps me to then embody it so that I can bring it out and through into the physical. So another thing as you're doing this and receiving your guidance and your instruction is to pull like an oracle card or a tarot card. And that is something I had the idea of doing. I haven't done yet. So it could be fun to just play around with, but help feel that activation of the message through this other lens, which again, there's no rules. Like creativity with all the practices is super, super fun to just let ourselves play in that space. So now we reach the artistic part. And again, I want to stress that if you feel called to start creating right away and then move and then create and then pray, like however it's coming through for you, trust that. This is just an example of, again, my process, but as we start to create, I primarily use watercolors right now, but I'm sure it will extend to lots of other modalities. There's like so many ways to use the artistic expression, like clay, drawing, acrylic, sculpture, dance, music, and the list goes on. But play around with how it feels to create. I tend to move around a lot when I'm feeling the energy because it helps me feel more embodied. I'll just like sway with the music that I have on and just feel that energy coursing through. And remember to stay out of your head because it's so easy to be like, wow, that looks so bad. What am I doing? Like, this is crazy. No, no, no. Like, our job is to allow the energies to come through in the way that they're asking. And I know I've said this a lot at this point, but it's so important. And it's the thing that has helped me the most is to realize like every stroke of my brush, that source is like holding my hand and guiding me to create. And the more I can tap into like what's the next right motion that feels most fluid and most just like natural for my body to do is the correct one, and just keep stringing them together and stringing them together and feeling and moving and breathing. And sometimes in between, if I start to get a little judgmental in my head, I'll get up and move, shake the energy out, sit back down, keep going. So hopefully those tips are helpful for you to be fully present in these energies. And that's why things like meditation, even if we're not doing it as part of this practice, can help us to just cultivate that presence in every day, so it becomes more of a second nature to us. So again, the judgment, the criticism, not welcome in this space. And it's so natural to be like that at first. I was very much like that and still can be. It's a process. And just being really kind with ourselves when we feel that. And it's like, okay, I know that you want to feel in control and that you're making something that looks good, but in the end, the energies will speak for themselves. And a lot of times, because you're accessing this higher dimensional energy, it's going to look like out of this world, very cool. And you'll be like, I would have never come up with anything like this had I been in my head. So it's a good sign that you're on the right track with it. And remember that through it all, our job is to just respond to the energies and to be the most open, receptive, alive being that we can, to listen, to feel, to move, and repeat. And the energies will tell you all that you need to know. So we've gone through our artistic process, and now we're gonna know when the right time is to stop, because sometimes, I mean, if any of you also out there are artists, it can be easy to like completely overdo it. And that's where we're listening to the energies, and it'll come to a natural conclusion, and you'll know when it's done when you're listening intently. So it's a good time for me to step away. I'll say a prayer of gratitude and close the records to kind of wrap up that container. And then instead of sitting there and starting to judge my art, I will get up and go do something else or rest or whatever it is, but not stare at it and analyze it. And coming back to what you've created with fresh eyes and sharing it with people too, to help see it through a lens of another person, because there's nothing cooler than to show people art and have like a million different answers for how it affects them and what they see in it and how they feel when they look at it. So something to keep in mind. And you may need some time afterwards to process the experience, which I'm one of those people, so I feel you. So listen to what your body wants to do and move or not move or go to bed. At some point though, I would suggest reflecting on how did this experience move you? How did it change you in some way? What new perspectives do you have on yourself, on the creative process, on your emotional experience? Because every experience, big or small, has an impact on us, whether we realize it or not. And it can be so powerful to just look back on this creation that you made and everything that it took to get there and everything that was moved in the process. So that is my process and my suggestions for how you can take these tools and make it into something completely unique to you. Just a little quick recap of some of the important points. The art channeling is such a sacred, beautiful experience, both in the process of creation and the final result. Allowing source to fully guide you. You are the vessel with which the energies even have a portal to come into the physical in the first place. So breathe that in, take it in, realize how powerful you are to be able to do this. And what an honor it is to translate the wisdom and the activations and the healing that's wanting to come through. And remembering that one of the most important ways to allow yourself to be that open channel is to be in your body, creating that sacred space, that prayer, that intention, and let go and let God take the wheel. Sometimes it helps me to literally say, like, God, just take my hands, like, I am yours to be used with as you will. So again, play with it, feel into it, and whatever you feel like doing. So this is what I have for you today. I'd be so curious to hear how it all landed, and especially if you experiment with creating your own channeling practice. Definitely keep me posted on how it felt for you. And of course, reach out with questions anytime. I would absolutely love to connect and to chat. I also have a really fun surprise. So Maureen, who is the other artist speaking at the summit today, and I will be sharing some channeled pieces specifically around the energy of this event and for all of you who are attending. So keep your eyes out on our Instagram for the expression that wanted to come through for today and any messages around that. My Instagram is at Nicole Rose Artist. I also recorded a really fun time lapse of me in creation mode so you can get kind of that visual sense of what my flow looks like and like what kind of a quick, it was like maybe 20 minutes total of creation and tapping in, but I'll just give you a flavor and an overview of kind of what an example of what it can look like. And if any of you are interested in learning more about my work, I would so love to hear from you. Message me anytime. I'm also open to suggestions around specific energies you'd want to see expressed through my work, and bonus points if it's animal energy, because it's my absolute favorite thing to tap into. I cannot resist. And as well as chatting about what possible one-on-one custom pieces could look like, or for facilitating an artistic experience. So I'm not officially offering any of these things yet, but I'm letting you know that if any of you would love to chat with me more about it, I am an open book and would love that. So it has been such a joy and a pleasure to bring this message to you on art channeling. And I'm so excited for all the expansion and the emotional experiences and the messages coming through that will be taking place from this magical summit. Sending you so much love.